especially if he does have like a few crit items, because he is going to get that movement speed. His ultimate is a really strong ability if you can use it correctly. You can use it to like start a fight by slowing the enemies, and that is probably the best way, or the way you want to use Jin's ultimate most of the time. You don't want to be using it like in the middle of a team fight. You want to use it more often than not to like start a team fight, or to pick an enemy out, or just to finish off a low health target when the team fight is ending. He does have pretty surprising burst damage too. Whenever you are playing Jin in the laning phase and you get your 4th shot up, then try to zone the enemy a little bit like from CS, because you're probably going to end up winning that trade most of the time. And a few cons to Jin are that he does not have a gap closer, and because he is like pretty skill shot reliant, he is also a little bit harder to play. Next up, I have Caitlyn. So Caitlyn is one of the better overall AD carries. She really doesn't have like a major weakness to her kit or in the game. She's got a great early game because she does have, I think, the longest base auto attack range for any AD carry in the game. So it just allows her to easily CS in the laning phase. And if she is going up against a shorter ranged AD carry, someone like a Sivir or a Vayne, then she can definitely do very well at poking them out and zoning them from CS. As long as you do like go even with Caitlyn in the laning phase, or if you can even pick up a kill, then once you do get to that mid to late game, or especially once you get to late game as Caitlyn, you're going to be able to deal so much damage. I'm going to say that Caitlyn's late game is definitely one of the best for any AD carry, because if you have your headshot passive up and you also have a few crit items on Caitlyn, then you're going to be able to do a load of damage with your auto attacks. And if the enemies do end up stepping on your traps in team fights, then the amount of damage that you can pump out is pretty good. She also does a really good job at like zoning enemies in team fights, and also at sieging down towers because of her traps. Just always remember to plant down your traps in team fights as Caitlyn, because although you may not think that the enemies will step on them, a lot of the time they do. Unlike Caitlyn, Jinx does have one of the best mid games for any AD carry. Once she does finish Infinity Edge and Runanes, the damage spike that you get with just those 2 items is just absolutely insane. You can pump out so much just like AoE damage in teamfights with Jinx because of the AoE damage coming out of her fish bones, and you can also stay pretty safe in teamfights because of the long range that your fish bones does provide you. She's got a pretty good like crowd control kit as well. She does have the slow from her W and the snare with her E. Her ultimate is a really good tool for just finishing off that low health target, and it can also get a nice snowball going for you in the laning phase if you just pay attention to your top lane and your mid lane. If they do get the enemy champions low, then you can throw an ultimate over there when they are basing, and it could surprise you and you could pick up a kill some of the time. She's a really strong tower pushing AD carry too, because she does have the attack speed steroid with teamfight AD carry in the game right now. When you are playing MF and you get like your 3 core items on her, if you can hit a good ultimate in a team fight on a few targets, it's going to deal so much damage, and that could just end up single-handedly winning you the team fight. So as long as you can position like decently as MF, just stay in the back line and look for that opportunity to get an AoE ult off, then you can do really well on her. She's got a really good level 6 all-in potential as well. If you are playing with a support like a Leona or a Sona, who are very meta support picks right now, I think that Sona is like one of the best supports this patch, as well as Leona. So if your support does lock one of those 2 champions, then definitely look to pick up MF and look to go for an all-in at level 6, because if the Sona can land her ultimate, or if the Leona can land her ultimate, then MF is going to be able to get a fully channeled ultimate off. She's got pretty good poke in the lane phase too with her Q. What you want to try to do as MF, rise like in popularity and rise in strength these past few patches. I've been like promoting Ashe pretty much this whole season, and I've been playing her as one of my go-to AD carries, but it's only been like these past few patches now that like pro players are starting to pick up on her, and she's starting to see a rise in solo queue as well. The main reason why Ashe is just such a strong pick is because of her ultimate. Whether you're in the laning phase as Ashe, or whether you're in a mid to late game team fight, that one pick on the enemy squishy target could end up like snowballing the game out of control if it is in the laning phase, or could end up winning your team the game if it is in a mid to late game team fight. She's a really strong kiting champion too. Her Q just allows her to kite really nicely in team fights because she's going to be able to proc that passive like really quickly, and she's also a pretty good tank shredder champion. Her Q allows her to kite those tanks nicely, and it also will deal a lot of damage. So when you are playing Ashe, just make sure that you are like using your Q whenever it is active in team fights. I find that I'll sometimes forget to activate my Q if I've like already activated it once, because